So here a little bit about nucleic acids. So those are the building blocks of DNA and RNA. Okay, so nucleic acids are made up of these elements, and they make up those huge nucleic acid polymers. And the building blocks of those polymers are called nucleotides. What makes up nucleotides? Well, you have a nitrogen base, nitrogenous base. You have a sugar, 5-point sugar, pentose sugar, and then you have a phosphate group attached to that nitrogen base and the pentose sugar. Now, in case of building blocks of DNA, your sugar is deoxyribonucleic acid, okay? It's deoxyribose. In case of RNA, it's going to be ribose. Okay, so deoxyribose for DNA, then ribose for RNA. Now, building blocks of your nucleic acid chains, you're going to have purines and you're going to have pyrimidines. So the purines, you're going to have two of them, adenine or guanine. For the pyrimidines, in case of DNA, you're going to have cytosine or thymine. Now, here is your double helical structure of DNA. Now, what do you need to know about this? Building blocks of DNA, those are nucleotides. So building blocks, here, they get together and they're going to interact with each other. What is going to keep DNA molecule together is hydrogen bonding, hydrogen bonds. Very important. Hydrogen bonds is going to keep this structure together. Okay. How is the pairing happening? A pairs with T, C pairs with G. I'm going to put a little song for DNA molecules here also in supplemental videos. Okay. Now, the other building block of nucleic acid strings is the ribonucleic acid. That's going to build up your RNA. Okay. What types of RNAs do you have? You have messenger RNAs, transfer RNAs, and ribosomal RNAs. Now, difference of these nucleotides is that for the RNA, you're not going to have thymine. Instead of thymine, you're going to have uracil. Now, this question says, the major building blocks of nucleic acids are what? And you should tell me here, nucleotides. Structure of those nucleotides. So you're going to have purines, or you're going to have pyrimidines. For the purines, you have either adenine or guanine. For the pyrimidines, you're going to have cytosine, thymine in the DNA, uracil in the RNA. How are you going to remember which one is purine or which one is pyrimidine? Well, let's look at the basic structure. So here you have your sugar molecule. It has 5 carbons. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have a nitrogenous base, and you have a phosphate. Now, the phosphate here is a pool of, it comes from a pool of phosphate in the cell. Okay, how are you going to remember this? Well, this is when you have a base sugar that is a little house. Okay, the base, actually, nitrogenous base is like a little garage that is close to your house, right? Now, if you only have a sugar and a base, this is called a nucleoside. In order to be a nucleotide, you need to have at least one phosphate. Okay, at least one phosphate to be a nucleotide. Then you can get fancier and have 2 or 3 more phosphates. Now, how are we going to remember which ones are the purines, which ones are the pyrimidines? Now, I like to remember Pugachoo, this little guy, yellow guy here. Why? Because purines are guanine and adenine, and they have 2 rings. 1, 2, 1, 2. So here is a Pugachoo. And the other ones, they have to be pyrimidines. Okay, here, when you look at nucleotides, those are not only your building blocks of genetic material or RNA molecules, but they're also very, very much important for other molecules in the cell, and specifically for the formation of ATP. Okay, so you look at ATP, the energy currency of the cell. You have a molecule of ribose. So ribose, that thing is also building up RNA, right? You have adenine, that is your nitrogenous base. Remember, that's a purine. And you have here phosphate groups. So when you look at ATP, you're thinking this thing is a nucleotide, right? It's a nucleotide. So ATP is very important for storage of energy in the cell, okay? Where is it that the energy is going to go? The energy is going to go in the phosphate bonds, okay, especially the last phosphate or the third phosphate. So here ADP is a diphosphate, 3 phosphates here. But the third phosphate, that is the one that has the highest energy of this group. So ATP has energy stored in the third phosphate group, in the bond that's putting together the third phosphate group. How are you going to get the energy out? Well, you're going to hydrolyze the third phosphate out of the ATP. So you add a water molecule. How are you going to put the phosphate back into ADP to make ATP? You are going to dehydrate this reaction here, and you're going to get your ATP. Here are examples of work that is possible because of energy that derives from the ATP, especially that third phosphate bond. So here you have transport work. So you can use ATP to change the conformation of proteins that are on the surface of cells, either to keep them closed or to open them up. And that allows stuff to, in this case, to get out of the cell. So transport work. Now, you can use the energy of ATP to allow for muscle contraction. So that has to do with mechanical work. And you can also use the energy of ATP to activate certain molecules to allow for certain chemical reactions to happen. Like I had shown in the class, a molecule of sugar that was activated. So when you added here a phosphate group to a certain molecule, you can activate it so that it can react in a type of reaction that would use that amount of energy. And this reaction would not be possible without activating the initial reactant first. So you can use ATP for transport work, or you can use it for mechanical work, or you can use it for chemical work in case of activation of reactants.